Good evening. This is Shay again. But I'm just like really just kind of tripping out on how amazing God is because who would have known that me being able to just put down nicotine and tobacco and not smoke, and after all these attempts for over 20 years, like I kept trying to do it by my own mind. I was striving, I was keeping these logs, I was thinking about it. It was like deeply ingrained in me. And then the other thing too was I even though I like cut back like drinking beer and alcohol and all that, I was still drinking it, but I got it convicted me because that is a part of like a generational curse that in my bloodline that has to be broken with depending on substances and things like that. So that one was like a real surprise because one day, like recently, I like had like this really crazy experience and like I got this dream, this vision, and I was like I didn't feel good for like 3 days and I didn't really drink that much, but I was so sick and I was like vomiting and like I had this headache that would not go away, and it wasn't like any other headache that I'd ever had before, and I just knew. And so like it was just like I don't know, it's like something was like pulled out of me, and that was it, and I just didn't turn back. And then there was this place that I used to go to, especially I'd say since 2015, like it's been about 10 years. And I had been convicted to stop going there. Like I wasn't really vibing with the place, but I was just going there because I was bored out of familiarity, and I wasn't really ready to leave behind past versions of myself because I was like, this has to be like a phase. Like there's no way that I'm like changing and I'm losing interest in showing up in this way. And it just like it was like I had so much resistance because I know everybody there. I've known everybody there for years, like in one space or another. And so like it was really difficult for me to wrap my head around the fact that God was removing me from that space too. And then to top it all off, like, you know, because these are LGBT spaces, and I've lived in that community forever and a day, but my identity is actually a lot different than a lot of those, you know, former gay or lesbian Christians who say that they are no longer gay or lesbian. I don't identify as either sexuality, really, like at the core of really who I am authentically. Like I'm not attracted to either sex, but I was more comfortable with the LGBTQ community because it was more accepting to people like myself who are on like a sliver. Like I am like probably one of the purest in terms of modern days because I don't think about those things. I don't even consider those things. That's why I miss out on so many like entendres and things like that because like my mind doesn't really go there. And so imagine being somebody like me and trying to fit into a society where it's binary, like you either are sexual or you are within the range of any of these like sexual identities, like bisexuality, heterosexuality, somewhere on the spectrum. I'm none of those, and it took me a long time to be okay with that. That's why I've always been really just like okay with either, like since I was a child, like if anybody's really known me since I was really small, I don't really like to be around people that much. I get overstimulated, but I do love people, but it's a very weird sort of sensory thing that I've had since I was a child. And so when I was a kid, like even like all the way up to high school, I used to like go and separate myself from everybody just to be alone. And so I'm finding myself like being back in my element as an adult. And today when I was like going like into some of like the old stomping grounds that I've been in, like I just like there was like this like home feeling, like there was this reframing because like there were some things that I didn't understand back then that had happened, but once I like came back in this new like spiritual space, like I was able to appreciate and reconnect with like the past, present, and the future. Like I was sitting on the ground, like outside, because I had saw like a Hobby Lobby, but they're closed on Sundays, and I was excited too, because I was like, I'm gonna get some arts and crafts and things like that. Like I kind of go off on these weird tangents where I can get lost in like like these crazy research projects, or like these, like I'll do something, then I get distracted or I get bored with it. But anyway, so I'm sitting there, and like there's like this huge tree that's like overhead, and it's absolutely beautiful. And there's like this beautiful like wind with the sweet aroma of like jasmine like wafting through, and like the sun's just perfect. It's not being abusive, it's not beating down on my skin and burning it. It's just like delicate, like delightful, like kind of like soothing me into like this space where I'm just at serenity. And I can hear, like, I think there were like some dark-eyed juncos and some other birds off in the distance. And of course there was some men, like a contractor crew that was working on a building adjacent to me in the parking lot. And I was just like in this. And so I've had to be in a space, and sometimes I do this naturally, where I have to get away from everybody. And I'm starting to understand why I am the way that I am. And there was never anything wrong with that. And at work, I typically mind my business. And because I'm usually quiet, people take it to be offensive. And I'll be like really like deep in like, because I like to read a lot of research, and just I like to read in general. So I read a lot on my phone. Like this eye knows because it's always twitching. And I also will be reading my devotional and stuff. And so like I like to like focus, because if I get interrupted, then it's hard for me to regain my train of thought, because of the way that my brain works. I have like 40,000 things going on, and people will get offended if I don't like acknowledge them right away, or if I'm not talking, and like they get in my space a lot. And and it's so weird, like grown adults need this much attention. But the thing about me though is, once I'm done with all of that, if I'm engaging with somebody, I like to give people my undivided attention. Like I like to be fully present. And a lot of people don't know this about me because of the way that I present, but when I was really small, I was pulled out of class. I had an IEP. Her name was Miss Elias. So she used to work with me individually. And then I also took speech therapy, and there was another outside class that I was in with Mr. Simbalos, because I wasn't very social. Like I didn't speak a lot, and so they thought that there was something, developmentally wrong with me. And this was in the 80s and 90s, so I was always under observation from elementary school on up. And I also saw a neurologist all the way until I left high school. And the crazy thing about me though was that I tested on those standardized tests at the top 3% for the country. And I was also in advanced placement in honors classes, and I was in an aerospace technology magnet program. So even in that program, they put me in a different curriculum, maybe because they thought I would be bored with just regular classes, who knows. But I was under constant observation because I was always different. And because I was different, I was constantly bullied and picked on, because I just did not conform, and I didn't know how. And that made it even worse. And I didn't really understand people, because as a child and a teenager, I didn't have a lot of actual close friends. I spent most of my time alone. And when I was at school, like I'd have some semblance. I was also athletic, so I would sometimes play basketball with some of the girls and some of the boys. And at home, like I would play out there. But like at the end of the day, I always wanted to be somewhere where it's quiet. And I still like quiet to this day. Like I'm at home right now, and I'm just enjoying the peace and quiet. So I've always been mysterious to people, but there's really nothing all that mysterious about me. I just present differently. And there are people that are outside of the scope of the status quo naturally. And I didn't realize for so long I had to force myself to mask, because I do have some stimming behaviors that I do. And sometimes like I'll like be messing with my hands, or like I do things with my mouth. I constantly am counting things. I have words that I repeat because I like the way that they sound, because there's a dimensional thing about them. And so what I do, like to other people, they don't recognize it as such, but I was late diagnosed with ADHD. And but I'm sure that some of the CPTSD that I developed through like repeated trauma has something to do with some of the other aspects. But I've always been odd, and I'm embracing it. And I just don't care to hide it anymore. And this internet has been a blessing for people like me. So that is my revelation for this Sunday. And sometimes I forget to eat because I have food in my refrigerator, but I never really want that until I want it, if that makes sense.